Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Q&A session. This is the second Q&A session of our series dedicated to the Interreg Europe second call for proposal. We organize all those sessions every 2 weeks at 10 a.m. Central Europe summertime until the 2nd of June. For about an hour, we try to answer all the questions you might have on the program and on the call to help you prepare for your application. So the call is open since the 15th of March and it will end on the 9th of June. You still have some time to elaborate on your application, but we couldn't stress it enough that you need to well prepare your application because it takes a lot of time. So the sooner you start, the better. And we are here today to help you start preparing your application. So my name is Brume Delaunay. I am Policy Officer at the Interreg Europe Joint Secretariat, and I will be your host for today's session. But you might know that cooperation is our motto here, and so I won't do this alone. I am here today with two of my colleagues, and they are representing the finance and the project team. So here with me today, Ségolène Jean, one of our finance officers. Good morning, Ségolène.
Good morning, everyone.
And sitting right next to you, we also have our colleague, Lorenzo David, Senior Policy Officer. Welcome, Lorenzo.
Welcome to this session also from my side. Good morning.
So good morning to you both. I hope you're ready to answer all the questions. And we also have some colleagues working behind the scenes. We have Petra, Josephine, Mia, Louise that are helping us with the tools, with the chat and the slides. And talking about the tools, let me introduce the ones that we will be using during our session. So when joining the meeting, you might have noticed that you were muted. But don't worry, you will be able to participate. Indeed, we need your input to make the session alive. So do not hesitate to say hello in the chat, use the chat for comments, reactions. Actually, I would be quite interested to know what you're expecting for today's session. So if you were to describe what you're looking for in today's Q&A session in a word, what would it be? Write it in the chat. And I will see if we get some answers, see if the chat is active. Feel free to comment and to say hello. But when it comes to the questions on the call, please save them for Slido. Indeed, we will collect all your questions on Slido. It will be open in parallel. And you will be able to post your questions anytime. So you can already access Slido by using the link that will be in the chat very soon, or you can go to slido.com and use the hashtag Interreg Europe. You can see it already on the slides on your screen. And I see that some people are saying hello. So hello from France, Italy, Poland. I see a lot of people joining. That's great. And finally, we will also be using the Zoom poll device to get to know you a bit better. So I see that so more and more people are joining us. Welcome to you. This is our second Q&A session focusing on the Interreg Europe second call for proposal. And today we will try to answer all your questions. But before that, we would like to know how familiar you are with the Interreg Europe program. So we just launched a poll to get some information to get to know if you're already quite experienced, for example, already involved in one of our previous projects, or if you're quite new and applying for the first time for one of our calls. So let us know you by answering the poll. But don't worry, this session should be helpful for all of you. So I see that we have actually a lot of newcomers that say not really I've heard about the program, but it's the first time. Great, thank you, welcome to you. We also have some already quite experienced people that are already involved in Interreg Europe project. So welcome to you also. Do not hesitate to share your tips in the chat. And we also have some people that already applied but were not able to get the project approved. So this might be the right moment to apply again. So I see that many people already answered. So I think we can close the chat. We have a great mix of participants today. Welcome to you all. And we will start answering your questions very soon. So for the one who just joined, here is a quick reminder of the tool that we are going to use to collect your questions. So it's Slido. You can access this platform by clicking on the link or by going to slido.com and use the hashtag Interreg Europe. There you can post your questions. You can also see other participants' questions, and you can also react. Like you can like the questions that you would be also interested in to get the answer, and we will go through them by order of popularity. So do not hesitate to share your question there, and we will go through them. So without further ado, let's dive into your questions. So I see that the two first questions are asking about the territorial agreements. So the first one is, can territorial agreements be eligible partners? And the second one is asking if they can lead a partnership. So for the first one, Ségolène, I will give you the floor to answer to this question. Can territorial agreements be eligible partners?
Thank you very much. Thank you for this question. I would like to answer, first of all, quite generally speaking about the eligibility, the organization which are eligible in our program. Maybe Petra, you can show the slide we have on this. So the organizations which are eligible in our program are, first of all, the public authorities. Then if you are a public law body, and then we also accept in the program private bodies, but only if they are non-profits. However, to be lead partners, you cannot be a private not-profit body. So these are all the organizations which are eligible. Then coming back to your question, which was about territorial agreements. So first of all, to make sure that you're a legal entity. And then, I mean, it's quite a specific status that you're describing here, which I assume would be sort of a regroupment of associations of municipalities and association of municipalities. But I would recommend that you check with your national point of contact to check your legal status and to see in which category you belong to make sure that you're eligible in our program.
Thank you, Ségolène. So this question is solved. Maybe we can move to the one we are territorial agreement, also on the territorial agreement, and they were asking if they could be a lead partner. So Lorenzo, can I ask you to answer the, sorry, not this one, but the following one? Yes, perfect, thank you. It has just changed again. Perfect. So Lorenzo, would the territorial agreement be able to lead a partnership?
In principle, as Ségolène was saying, it very much depends on the legal status of this territorial agreement, in the sense that NGOs cannot lead partnerships, and also if this territorial agreement, for instance, is based in Switzerland, also partners from Switzerland cannot lead a partnership and become lead partners. But I think the two aspects, two facets of the questions were answered both by me and Ségolène.
Thank you, Lorenzo. So we can now move on to the next one, the one that was always popping to the screen. So I think it's a question that you all want to get the answer. In an eligible partnership with 8 partners and 7 regions, if 3 regions belong to the same country in a justified way, could it be detrimental to winning the call? So, Lorenzo, give you this question again.
Thanks. This is a very interesting question and a very specific case which we don't really encounter very much in our project. First of all, the entire added value of participating in an Interreg Europe project is that you get involved, you share experience with partners coming from regions that are not so close to you. And coming with 3 regions from the same country, I think it would be very, very hard to be justified. And also, I think we never had the case in which 3 partners, 3 regions addressing 3 different policy instruments can come in the same project together. So to answer your question, yes, I think it would be detrimental if you would choose a partnership with this composition.
Thank you, Lorenzo. So, and concerning the question, the
Maybe
previous question.
Sorry,
Yes.
maybe I can add just
Yes,
about
sorry,
this.
Ségolène.
No worries.
Go.
About this question about also the impacts on the budget. Oh, sorry, I can hear someone. Yeah, okay, it's gone. Yeah, so about the impact on the budget. I mean, if you have lots of partners coming from the same country, then we could see also a high percentage of the budget going to the same country, which in terms of balance and geographical balance, both financially and in the activities could be questions. So it would really have to be really justified. And as Lorenzo was saying, it would be better to go beyond the borders, to be more in the logic of the program.
Yes, indeed. So the 2 other questions are coming from Daphne, and they are almost similar, so we can try to deal them jointly. So the first one is about the partnership. So the region from which we want to import the best practice is supposed to be a partner or not? If not, is the partnership composed by countries that share the same policy issue? And the second one, if the region sharing a successful best practice is supposed to be a partner, on what are they supposed to work if they already succeeding for what concerns that policy objective? So Lorenzo, could you please help us in answering those 2 questions that are coming from Daphne, please?
Yes, with pleasure. These questions are indeed touching to the real essence of our program. So yes, indeed, you should team up with regions, with partners that have good practices that would be interesting to you. This is exactly the essence of the program, where you will start to exchange on the same policy issue, on the same challenge, let's say it like this, and then you will form a group of partner regions that are interested to cooperate on the same topic, and then you will start to exchange good practices, lessons learned, experiences among each other. And even as the second question seems to suggest, you may have in the partnership regions that are very well advanced. They already have good practices. Feel reassured when a partnership starts cooperating, even for the most advanced ones, there will still be lessons to be learned. There will still be good practices that they will find interesting. So do not look at it in a dichotomic way, like some of the partners are just for the sharing and others are just for the learning. Reality is more complex when you will start cooperating.
Thank you, Lorenzo. So I understand that there's always room for improvement. So moving on to the next question, we will keep Anka's question for a bit after, and we will move to the anonymous question. what is the most optimal mix of regions with different levels of development? We understand that this is more positive than less developed region participate. Can you give an ideal guideline? So, Lorenzo, again, this question is for you. Ségolène, I will have some question for you after that.
Yes, with a pleasure. This question actually relates a lot to my answer to the previous question. So, indeed, when you are composing a partnership, you need to have a mix of more developed regions, transition regions, and less developed regions. As long as you have a good mix of regions, meaning that you have these categories click, but at least one partner, you will not be, let's say, you will not receive a bad score in a mix of more and less advanced region. However, we do not have an ideal sharing of more and less advanced regions in the partnership. It needs to make sense to you, and you need to make sure that the learning process evolves naturally and will be interesting for all the regions involved.
Thank you. I will ask you to stay with me, Lorenzo, because we have another question. Can two partners from the same country address the same policy instruments in the complementary way?
Yes, the simple answer is yes. Indeed, we find often arrangements such as the policy responsible authority. Let's imagine a region or a municipality comes into a project with their policy instrument that they want to improve, but they also need, for the exchange of experience, a technical partner such as a university or a local energy agency, let's say, that will help them in the sharing and also uptake of the good practices that they are shared. So in this case, both organizations may join the partnership and be actually two organizations from the same country addressing the same policy instrument. So it's possible.
Great. So I see that one question of Andrea is actually linked to this one, but the situation is a bit different. So it's if in the region there are two partners addressing two different policy instruments, one on a regional level and the other on a national level, can this situation be approved?
This is more a niche. What we advise our partners during the consultations is that try to look at the situation in your territory for a broader perspective. For instance, you have a challenge, and this challenge normally is approached through a policy instrument. It can be indeed the case that you have the same topic approach in two policy instruments in the same region, but we are always inviting you to create synergy in your territory, maybe go for the more overarching of the two policy instruments and see if you can involve also this other organization that is responsible for the second policy instrument, and maybe join efforts and come in a more coherent way, because finally you will be working, you will be sharing experience, you will be learning on the same policy challenge. So it's better to go for one policy instrument.
Okay, better to group the policy instruments. So we now have a question from Magdalena, and it will again be a question answered by Lorenzo. Ségolène, I promise there are some questions for you after that. The project addresses existing policy instruments whose time span covers at least the duration of the Interreg Europe projects. Is it possible to indicate a policy instrument that ends in 2024? Is it possible to work on updating it? Expected project duration 2024, 2026, so and plus 1 year with the last year of the project, that is until 2027. So would it be possible to work on the policy instrument that ends in 2024, Lorenzo?
Indeed, another very, very interesting question and an opportunity to explain a bit how it works. So when you are addressing, when you are joining a Interreg Europe partnership, you always select a policy instrument that you will like to improve. And then you will go for 3 years in an intense exchange of experience with the other regions from Europe, and you will do your utmost to get inspiration from the other project partners and improve your policy instruments. Now, considering that your project is starting on the second call already in 2024, it needs to make sense to you that you will still be able to use the lessons learned that you will learn in the period 24-27 to improve your policy instrument. Now, if your policy instrument ends in 2024, in principle, it is not possible to improve it. Nevertheless, in reality, we see a lot of policy instruments that are framed in specific periods, but they have continuation. So if the policy instrument end date is 2024, but this is a typical instrument that is updated and goes for another period and afterwards for another period, and you can demonstrate to us that there are already plans to have a continuation of this policy instrument, then yes, we can confirm that this can be approached. If it ends really in 2024 and there are no plans for a continuation of it, then you will not be able to approach it.
Thank you, Rachel. Indeed, it's a journey that will last until 2027 for you. So better to choose a policy instrument that you can improve until the end. So Ségolène, I promised, and it's happening. There's a question for you. How many responsible authorities must be involved in the project? Can you explain a little bit more about the composition of the partnership, please? And
Yes,
please,
thank you very
Ségolène, can
much.
you answer?
Okay, so for the partnership, we have a rule, which is that half of the policy instruments, for half of the policy instruments, the policy responsible authority has to be involved as a partner. And then for the other policy instruments, they have to come as a specific status, which is called associated policy authorities. For these associated policy authorities, they do not have any budget. However, they are still involved in the activities and commit to be involved as a golden stakeholder, I would say, and really to try to go with the project and to implement afterwards the policy changes. So the best is to try to have as many responsible authorities as possible, of course, because these are the target groups of our program. But we also know that sometimes it's not possible. So for these cases that the responsible authorities cannot be direct partners, then they have to come as associated policy authorities, and they will also have to sign a declaration, which is a bit, it's another question, I guess, that I will take afterwards. But yeah, don't know if Laurencio wants to, no? Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Ségolène. So we have another question on partnership, but this one will be more for Lorenzo. Can the National Innovation Agency responsible for the implementation of the policy instruments be considered as a policy responsible authority, or is it necessary to have a ministry level in the partnership?
I think that the answer to this question can start from the way we define the concept of region and policy responsible authority. First of all, in Interreg Europe projects, project partners can address policy instruments that are local, regional, or national level. So when we are defining region, we are talking about the area that is covered by a specific policy instrument. So per se, it is, unless you are addressing a national policy, is not necessary to have or a regional policy in case of regional ministries. You don't need to have this sort of organization as a mandatory requirement. we are always looking towards who's the policy responsible authority for the respective policy instrument. If this National Innovation Agency is indeed responsible for a policy instrument, which could be a national strategy for innovation, then this is fine for us. And you don't need to have the ministry involved if they don't have any specific role in elaborating or implementing this policy instrument. Nevertheless, whenever you are in doubt, if you are indeed the policy responsible authority for a policy instrument, it's always better to check with your national point of contact, because finally, when you will submit the project and the eligibility check was done and the status of the partners will be checked, this will be done by the member states, so by your national contact point. So it's better to check with them in advance.
Thank you, Lorenzo. And actually, Josephine shared in the chat the link to get the contacts of your national contact points. So I recommend that you click on this link and save this page for later. It could be always interesting for you. And the next question is actually quite linked to the question you just answered, Lorenzo, but it's more general. It's what can be considered management authorities. I think they were talking about policy responsible authorities. So Lorenzo, can you give us more general answer to this question, please?
Yes, as you rightly pointed, it's very important to make sure that we use the same terminology when we are talking about the projects and the key concepts that we use. So we don't really use the term managing authority. This is indeed a consecrated term for the organizations that are in charge of regional programs. They are usually called managing authorities, but to make it broader, we prefer to use the term of policy responsible authorities. These are the authorities that are responsible for the elaboration and delivery of a specific policy instrument. Let's take an example. If we are talking indeed about a regional program, this may indeed involve a managing authority, a policy responsible authority that is a regional government. However, we can talk about a mobility plan, urban mobility plan, and in this case, the policy responsible authority, which is in this case is not normally called the managing authority, will be the municipality. They are in charge of elaborating the urban mobility plan and for implementing it. So it's very good to try to familiarize yourself with the concepts that we use in our program. And yes, indeed, with our jargon, let's say it like this.
Thank you, Lorenzo. I will ask you to answer the next question, and then we will have some questions that are more specific. But there's one question, one partner asking, can a partnership be successful without public authorities, but with public bodies such as public universities?
I will take this one as well. Very interesting question, which gives me the opportunity to remind you about the main target group of the program, which is the public authorities. So for us, it would be almost impossible to imagine a project dealing with policies, with policy instruments that does not involve public authorities. As Ségolène was mentioning before, when you are building a partnership, the first thing probably will be to try to select some partners interested in the same topic. The second step will be to choose the policy instruments that you want to improve. And after you choose the policy instruments that you want to improve, the element that you will need to check is that for at least half of them, for at least half the policy instrument address, you have the responsible body, the policy responsible authority directly involved as a partner. So we can already see that for half of them, we will need to have the policy responsible authorities as partner, the public authorities. Also, for the remaining policy instruments, you will need to involve the public authorities responsible for this policy instrument as associated policy authorities. So to answer your question, without public authorities, you will not have a chance to submit your project, or in any case will not be considered eligible.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Indeed, Ségolène explained this process a bit earlier, but it's always good to remind and to say to repeat actually the information. We have a very specific question. They are asking if a research institute in Germany can participate in this second call. So Ségolène, can you give us some information to answer this question, please?
Yeah, sure. I think it's again the question of eligibility. And in that case, you should look at your legal status. So if you're a research institute, but who is a private non-profit body, then you would be eligible to participate as a partner. However, you could not be a lead partner. However, if you're a public organization, in that case, you could be a lead partner. So anyway, in case you have doubts about your legal status, we would always encourage you to check with your national point of contact. So that's for the eligibility part. And then also in terms of contents, also this idea of policy relevance that you think you should think about, and that Lorenzo, of course, could discuss afterwards. So yeah, check your legal status, check with your national point of contact, and you should be good.
Thank you, Ségolène. And I have another question for you that is also linked to the partnership and the eligibility. Can municipalities from Switzerland be partners in an Interreg Europe project?
Yeah, thank you very much. We're very happy to see that there is an interest from Switzerland, and indeed it's a country which is eligible for our program, so this is good. However, we do not manage the Switzerland funds here at the program, so it will not be ERDF fund that will be provided to these partners. And they should always check also with their national point of contact to see what is the co-financing and the funding that is possible on their side. And yeah, just a quick reminder also that they cannot be a lead partner from Switzerland, unfortunately, but they can be involved as partners, and we'll be really happy to see some Swiss partners.
Thank you, Ségolène. So we have another question from Anonymous, so I don't know from who. In cases where the responsibility for the policy instrument is shared by more than one organization, should the two or all of them be considered partners? Or would it be enough if one of them is a partner? Alternatively, should they at least participate as associated policy authorities? So this question was answered generally, but Ségolène, if you could give some specific informations, or if Lorenzo, you would prefer to answer this one, I let you choose.
I think I would prefer to answer this one, but the answer is that the situation is something that we are not familiar with. In general, when there is a policy instrument, there is a lead organization that is responsible for its implementation and delivery. So I think this is the way to go to try to identify which is the organization that is actually leading and managing this policy instrument. And this one can be involved in the project directly as partner, or in case it's in the other half that I was mentioning before, you need to have it involved as the policy responsible authority. In any case, for such a very niche and specific case, we would recommend, because ourselves we would do the same. We will go to the national point of contact to try to better understand the situation and ask for their advice on who they really consider as a policy responsible authority for this specific policy instrument.
Thank you, Lorenzo. We have other question on policy instruments. So they are quoting the program manual, I think. So at least one policy instrument per project must be an investment for jobs and growth goal program. Could you provide some example of this kind of policy instruments? Do they have to have job and growth as their main and or sole goal, or could it be an indirect expected outcome?
Very, very good and very interesting question, and another occasion to explain a core element of our program. So we talked earlier that projects, when they project partners, when they enter Interreg Europe project, they need to select a policy instrument that they want to approach, they want to improve in the frame of the 4 years of cooperation. So as an eligibility requirement, at least one of these policy instruments must be a program that falls under the investment for jobs and growth goal. In this case, the situation is very easy to check. To say it in simple words, we are all familiar with the regional operational programs, the ones funded by ERDF and DSF, and this is what we consider as programs under the investment for jobs and growth goal. Now, to make it even more simple, when you will go on our website, you will have a section in your country, and we have, when you will select the country that you are from, you will see that there is a table already with the programs that we consider as falling under the investment for jobs and growth program. So if the policy instrument that you are addressing is on this table, that you are good to go. If it's not there, maybe you ask a bit more clarification on what you can consider in your country as investment for jobs and growth program. But in general, this is what we are referring to the, they were called in the past operational programs. Now I think they are just regional programs called. You need to familiarize yourself with them, and probably you are already familiar if you are in this arena of policy and regional development.
Thank you, Lorenzo. So we have a question again on policy responsible authorities. And here it's a question linked to the different levels that could be involved. So could be involved in the same partnership, different policy responsible authorities from different levels. For example, the ministry, the municipality, and the region.
The answer is plainly yes. I was mentioning before that the term of region in our definition is rather broad and refers to the coverage area of the respective policy instrument. As long as the policy instruments let's take it differently. As long as the challenge that you are addressing, the topic that you are addressing in your project is reflected in the policy instruments, regardless of their level, then it would make sense for you to start cooperating with other regions and try to see how things are done in different regions, and use this inspiration for improving your policy instrument. So it's possible that something, even if it's at national level, a national level initiative, still makes sense for a municipality that wants to improve its local development strategy. So the answer is yes.
Thank you, Lorenzo. We have another question on policy instrument, and this time it's again on the duration of the policy instrument. So here it's not exactly the same situation, but almost. Here the policy instrument is ending in 2026, so at the end of the core phase. Would it be an eligible policy instrument if during the monitoring phase the duration of our policy instrument has been ended?
I think I can only refer to my previous answer. You need to check carefully that you can still improve the policy instruments in the lifetime of the project. The differentiation between the core phase and the follow-up phase is that the follow-up phase normally is designed to allow you to assess the effects of this policy change in your territory and report to us what has happened, what was improved, how did it work, was it successful, or it was not. So you need, once again, to make sure and to be able to demonstrate to us that this is possible during the lifetime of the project.
Thank you, Lorenzo. So I have a question again on the Regional Jobs and Growth Program. Here, Joseph is asking if we could give some examples on where to find the policy instruments. So, Lorenzo or Segulen, could you please give us some information? Maybe Lorenzo, yes?
I'm not sure what is meant by where the policy instruments can be found. Once again, we are referring to the regional programs financed by ERDF, ESF. Normally, these are the programs that are negotiated by your regions with the European Commission, and then these are the European funds that are mainstreamed in your regions. Once again, if you go into the in your country section of the Interreg Europe website, you'll find on for each specific country the exhaustive list of policy instruments that are falling under the Jobs and Growth Program goal.
Thank you, Lorenzo. And actually, Josephine sent the link to access the page in my country in the chat. And there, indeed, there's an Excel table with the list of the different policy instruments. So different programs, sorry. There's the question from Anka that keeps coming again. So my colleague Lorenzo already answered by email this question, but we think that it could be interesting for all of you to give an answer here during the Q&A session. So the question is, can a project in which partnerships between local public governments are used as a management tool for better delivery of public services at the regional level be funded under the non-thematic, a better cooperation governance objective? So thank you, Lorenzo, for answering this question.
Yes, indeed. Before answering this, I would like to ask my colleague Petra to already post the slide, maybe with the policy objectives that are can be approached in within our program. Indeed, we postpone a bit this question because it was already received also by email and it was answered. And I take this opportunity also to reassure you that the questions that are coming from you will be always answered by our team. In some periods, it may take a bit longer, but you will get the proper answer to your questions. Now, very relevant question indeed, coming from Anka. But once again, we need to clarify a bit the terminology. So our program has an overarching goal, which is better cooperation governance. Under this overarching goal, we are financing cooperation projects on the five policy objectives of the cohesion policy, and you are very familiar with them: the smart, green, connected, social, and closer to citizens topic. Also, considering the nature of our program, we are financing projects under the pillar governance. This is a non-thematic field, and where cooperation are still possible. We are talking here about indeed what Anka is referring as tools used in the governance process of different policy instruments, but which is not really linked to a policy objective or a specific topic such as energy efficiency or employment or integrated territorial development. I would further emphasize some examples from the projects that we received in the first call and maybe would be useful to you. For instance, we have a project that was approved and is now working on the use of satellite data in the policy decision process. Another project, for instance, which falls under the governance pillar, and you will see is non-thematic, is rural proofing policies. What does it mean? Because also for us, it was a bit interesting to find out about this concept of rural proofing. This concept relates to the fact that in the process of designing policies, we need to make sure that the rural dimension is also considered, and not only the urban dimension, the urban challenges. So when you are designing legislation, development plans, you need to take into consideration also the specificities of rural territories. So this was the rural proofing mechanisms. And this project will work specifically on this topic. So you see, is not really thematic, is not really focused on a specific policy, but it's still a challenge that can be approached in our project. Other examples that are even mentioned in the manual is how you organize the state aid or the public procurement, how you evaluate policy, how you do their monitoring. So all the tools that are needed for such for better delivering policies, these are topics that can be indeed approached within Interreg Europe under the pillar governance.
Thank you, Lorenzo. And there's the following question that is more on the activities. So maybe if you could add some information just to complete what you were explaining about the previous question.
The way we understood this question, but once again, maybe Anka can go back to us in case we really did not grab the sense of the question, is if the evaluation of the policy instruments can be a project activity, and the answer is yes. Projects normally start by assessing the baseline situation in their territory, what we usually see in the application calls as a state-of-the-art analysis, where you analyze your territory, your policy instrument, you see the flows, the improvement points, where are the weakness, and so forth. And based on this, you start exchanging good practices for the purpose of tackling the issues that you identify in your policy instrument. Now, the policy instrument that can be addressed within our project, the spectrum is so large that we cannot really say if the questionnaire should be integrated or not. The way policy changes are reported to us are usually categorized in 3 types: new projects, change in the management of the policy instrument, or revision of the policy instrument itself. But it's then up to you to describe, first of all, in the application form, how you expect to improve it. And then when you, in the implementation phase, when you will report to us the policy improvements, you will need to describe what exactly happened, what documents of the policy instruments were modified, how. So if in this case, by including this questionnaire, this is the way you improve the policy instrument, it can make sense or not, depending, of course, the analysis is always done in the context. And I hope I answered the question.
Thank you. And as you said, Enka can always answer your email to give more information if she needs to have more specific information. And so now I would like to bring my colleague Ségolène in again, because it's been a long time that I haven't hear your voice. So there's a question on pilot action. We always have questions on pilot action, so I think it's the moment to answer this one. Do pilot action, which will not be implemented from the project start, need to be mentioned in the application in some way?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm back again. So for pilot action, indeed, there are 2 possibilities. You can either propose a pilot action from the beginning, and in that case, at the application stage, you have a precise description of the pilot action, of the activities, and you know what you want to do. Or you can propose a pilot action a bit further after, towards the end of the court phase at the midterm review, which is a meeting we have with the projects to see a bit the state of play of the projects. So if you already have an idea of pilot actions, you know what the test you want to do, this a bit more implementation activity oriented activity, then you can mention it and put it in the application form. Otherwise, we would also expect you to exchange, and ideas of pilot actions can come within the exchange of experiences. So there's really no need to mention them from the start, because the idea can change, and you can have another ideas also when exchanging with the partners, and we can discuss it at the midterm review. So yeah, that would be my answer.
Thank you, Ségolène. There is another question for you. It's about stakeholders that has been sent 2 hours ago. How is the collaboration of the stakeholders? Is a letter of commitment necessary, or does it just have to be reflected in the reports?
Okay, so for stakeholders, this is also a specific status. So stakeholders are not partners, so they don't have a budget. However, they are the organizations around the projects in the different regions, which are also linked to the topic and can provide information and can be important for the exchange of experience. So that we have what we call the stakeholders group. So for each region, each partner, they will have to provide a list of stakeholders in the application form, which are all these entities that can exchange on the topic and be of added value. And there is no letter of commitment needed for these stakeholders. There is no declaration or nothing. And in the report, so yeah, when you will be reporting, we'll expect you to explain, to describe what have been the exchanges, to say, okay, we had this stakeholder meeting in that place and the topic was this. So yeah, we expect stakeholders to be involved, but not as partners. And in terms of budgets, I can also add that they do not have a budget, but if they have any travel and accommodation costs, these can be paid by the partners directly. And then these travel and accommodation costs for stakeholders can be planned under external expertise.
Thank you, Ségolène. We also have a question on the local group that you were mentioning. So there's a question from Hans Christian. Do we need the list? Do we need to list the partner also as member of the regional steering group? So you were mentioning the list of stakeholders. Do they need to list the partner as part of the stakeholders?
Regional steering group. So if that refers to stakeholder, I think that you mentioned,
Yes.
you think that's the same. So you'll have to provide a list of stakeholders, but the partners are not considered as stakeholders. However, you have to include the associated policy authorities in the list of stakeholders. So for the partners, you don't include them, but for the associated policy authorities, different type of status, yes, you include them in the list of stakeholders in the application form.
Thank you, Ségolène. So we can move again to Lorenzo with a question that is again on policy instruments, but I see that we have less and less questions on policy instruments. So we are coming to the end slowly of this session. So can the partner address reform actions in the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, or it has to be connected to operational program for jobs and growth?
I will try to answer, and hopefully it will make sense for the person that proposed this question. So I can definitely tell that national recovery and resilience plans are considered policy instruments. I can also confirm that national recovery and resilience plans are not considered as programs under the investment for jobs and growth. Okay, so if you think that the national recovery and resilience plans is the one investment for jobs and growth program that you will approach in a project, this is not possible. You'll need to select indeed an operational program to have it in the composition of policy instruments that are addressed. However, for national recovery and resilience plans, there is the issue of the timing, and you need to check again what is the timeline of the national recovery and resilience plans, and to make sure that they cover the duration of the project as it was explained in the as it was explained previously.
Thank you, Rachel. We have another question on policy instrument. It's the last one, this one. It's from Katarzyna. Our regional policy is the city development strategy. There are no implementation documents for this strategy. As a result of the project, we would like to create an implementation document, implementation scheme for the strategy. Is such a change in regional policy acceptable to the GS?
Once again, we are always analyzing elements in context. So when we will have the description of the policy instrument and the way it's function, we can give you a better answer to this question. Nevertheless, what you seem to describe in your question seems to relate to a change in the way this strategy is managed. So you did not have a clear implementation guideline, and now you will implement this new methodology for better delivering the city development strategy. Yes, in principle, this could be a policy improvement that we could validate, let's say, in the implementation during the implementation of your project. What you need to make sure is that in order to report this as a policy improvement to our program, is that the inspiration from for the way this methodology, this document, implementation document is designed might take into consideration the inputs, the lessons learned, the good practices learned from the other project partners. So this is very important to make sure that the improvement of the policy instrument it's linked to the activities and the learnings coming from the project.
So thank you, Lorenzo. I see that we are slowly approaching 11 at the end of our session. So we still have some questions to tackle, but before that, we will launch a poll to ask you to provide us with feedback on this session to help us improve the following one. So there's a poll that will appear on your screen. Please answer the poll to give us feedback, and we will keep answering your questions as we are almost at the end of the question, and then we will give you some more information on the application process. We might go other 11, but not a lot, like very few minutes. So I hope you will be able to stay with us until the end. So do not forget there's the poll running. You can answer the poll whenever you want, but preferably before the end of the session. And we will keep answering your question. So before that, I saw a question in the chat from Irene. She's asking where she can find more information on the stakeholders. So as I can answer very quickly, there's the program manual. You can find everything. It's kind of the Bible for the Interreg Europe program. You can find it on the website. There's the new program manual for the new programming period, and you can find all the information you need and specifically information on the stakeholders and the stakeholder group. So we can move to Slido again. Sorry, Josephine just sent the link of the program manual, so you can just click on it and you will get everything. So the question on Slido, once adding advisory lead partner, the declaration generated mentions as a role just partner. Is this an issue to be solved, or the advisory lead partner should sign a declaration referring to it as just a partner? Ségolène, could you please give us some information on this question, please?
Yeah, sure. So this is quite a technical question. Thank you for this. So for the partners and the associated policy authorities, you will have to provide a declaration. So these declarations are automatically generated. The template is generated in the portal. And there is a line in the declaration, which is type of organization. And for this, the answer is either partner or associated policy authority. So there are two possibilities. So even though you are a lead partner or an advisory partner, if it's okay that it's written partner, because the different points that are mentioned afterwards are the same for the partners, lead partner, advisory partner, and are different for associated policy authorities. So there are two types of declarations.
Thank you, Segolene. And I have another question for you. It's on the pilot action again, but this time it's on the budget. How do you budget the pilot action if you introduce the action after the midterm review? Do you already budget it in the application form from the beginning?
Okay, thank you very much again for the pilot action. It's nice to see there are also some interest for these specific activities. So if you have a pilot action already planned at the beginning in the application form, then you can also plan the budget. There is no specific tab or place where you should plan this pilot action cost, but you should plan the cost in the different cost categories that are available for the general activities. However, if you do not plan the pilot action from the beginning and you want to propose it at the midterm review, then do not plan any cost, and we'll see it at the midterm review with you.
Thank you, Segolene. There is a question, where can we find example of the partner declaration?
Yeah, as I was saying, when you go in the portal, you go in annexes, and then for all the different partners, you can generate the partner declaration. There is a button.
Thank you, Segolene. The last question will be for Laurencio. As a research institute on renewable energies, we worked already in many Interreg 5A projects. For starting Interreg Europe, we are searching for partners from the public sector. How can we get in touch with interested public sector partners for initiating more European projects?
Thanks. This is a very good question and a very good question to take at the end of the session. I would kindly ask Petra if we have a slide on the assistance. We can already showcase a bit what we can offer you as tools for building your partnership and being able to submit your project. So our assistance to the project partner is organized in 6 steps. And I think the most interesting for you are step 3 and 4, because in step 3, you have the possibility to go on the website if you already have a profile created in our community, and you will be able to share your project idea. And these ideas are public, and you'll be able to get organically the interest from other regions that want to cooperate on the same topic. We also have a tool for finding partners. This is also available on our website, and we invite you to take advantage of this.
Thank you, Laurencio. We are done. We made it until the end of the questions. Thank you very much, Laurencio and Segolene. I'm sure that your knowledge was precious for the participants. So before leaving, we have some slides on the call, as I was explaining before, but also do not forget to answer the poll, the concluding poll, and let us know what if you actually liked the session, and give us some feedback. So coming back to the slides and not to the call. We managed to answer all the questions, but if you have more questions that will pop into your mind in the coming days or week, you can always go through our frequently asked questions section on the website. You might find some interesting information there and maybe the answer to your question. But if it's not the case, you can also use the Ask a Question form that is also on our website. So this question would be sent to the Joint Secretariat. And one of my colleagues or even me, we will answer your question by email. And so for the assistance, so Laurencio explains the different steps that of your of the preparation of your application. There's the first one to check your project relevance by using the self-assessment tool. You can also get inspired by previous projects and by project ideas of other partners. Then after Rachel explained the fact that you can share your own idea that will help you to find partners, use the find partners device as well. And you can ask for feedback. This is a very interesting device also that we have on our website. Once your application starts to be well developed and quite mature, you can send it to the Joint Secretariat and we will provide you with tailored feedback. And finally, you can apply to for the call by submitting your proposal on the portal. And Ségolène was talking about the portal. You will submit your application fully online. And so we can also, I will also show you the different events that we are organizing in parallel. So we organize a project development webinar series from the 24th to the 27th of April at 10 a.m. And each session will last 1 hour and a half. So during those events, we will explain you how to build a successful partnership, how to design project methodology, how to budget your projects, and also how to work with the project communication. So if you're interested, please register to those sessions. And as we really liked exchanging with you today during this Q&A session, we will have 4 more Q&A sessions. So the next one will be on the 21st of April. The one after would be on the 5th of May, then 7th of May, and then the 2nd of June. There's the link in the chat if you want to register, and you can find everything on our hub that is called Apply. No, sorry. I forgot the word. Apply for the call, sorry. And you will find all the information I just mentioned, so the tools, the events and the guidelines. So I recommend to save this page as favorite because it will be like a treasure book for you, and you will need to get to this page quite often when you will prepare your application. So that's a tips from me. And thank you very much for being with us until the end of this session, for your interest in our program and also in our call. Do not forget to answer our poll to give us some feedback. And we are getting to the end of the session. I hope that it was very helpful for you and that you have a lot of information to prepare and elaborate on your application. It's time for me to thank you and to wish you good luck with the preparation of your application, and also to thank my colleagues. And we hope that we will receive your application before the end of the call, that is the 9th of June. And again, good luck with it.